I'm Karen Carrington, candidate for Blacksburg Town Council. There are lots of issues facing our town, and as someone who has lived here since the 90s, I know exactly how to approach these problems. By using nostalgia and scapegoating as a way to profiteer from them. You see, Blacksburg was a shithole in the 90s, but don't let facts get in the way of wildly inflating our real estate value. As a town council member, I will not only perpetuate this housing crisis, but also deflect blame to the very students that enrich us, yet we despise. We will accomplish this by holding up any and all housing developments, idealizing a time when no one wanted to live here, finding obscure species and claiming anything fun or loud as a threat to them, a marketing campaign that tricks retirees into living in student-dense areas, tear gas to disperse Center Street gatherings over 50 people, public floggings of anyone displaying Greek letters. With my plan, we'll be able to continue to inflate our home values and torture students while taking the moral high ground. Vote for me, Karen Carrington, and save the salamanders.
All right, that was great. It's refreshing to see politicians that are just that honest.
I tell you, it is a sight to behold every time I hear the honest words coming out of her mouth.
I know, Karen Carrington, she gets it, man. She gets it.
The
also heard she's
floggings are the one that really, I was a big fan of. Like it, copying to that is pretty incredible.
I hate her more than I hate the entire state of Ohio.
Oh wow, that's strong. Well, hi Paul. Thanks for a ride, did you?
Hi, how's everybody doing? So before we get started here, I'm very excited because I think this is the first time Brian and I have ever done anything together. So I'm very excited for that. But I do have to apologize to everyone because for whatever reason, my iPad decided at the last minute that it wasn't going to connect properly. So the only way you will get egregious crotch shots this week is if I actually tip my camera down, which in about that much I probably will do.
Yeah, let's hope for the up shot and not the down shot.
Yeah,
I'll take both.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can
really
kick the leg.
Yeah, look at him go. Look at him go.
There we go.
Yeah. Hang on, let me get comfortable here, fellas. Let me get there.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, you guys can be professional. I'm just gonna kind of relax here. I'm the eye candy for the ladies. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's my middle name, Jeremy Professional Counts. That's what I'm known for.
Oh, professional. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, guys, what are we drinking tonight?
Ladies in fact, so I think we're good to go, Jeremy.
All right. Excellent. All right. So what are y'all drinking tonight?
I got a little Woodford Reserve. Courtesy of Nels Williams.
Hey.
Nice.
Little Hardywood special here.
Excellent.
The last summer beer, so we'll move on to something more seasonal here shortly.
Yep.
I like it.
Well, I guess we should just get into it, guys. Brian, you were there. What the fuck happened?
Brian just is like, deuces, bitches, I'm out. Here's what I think of all of you. Here's what I think about Virginia Tech football. Here's what I think about Vanderbilt. Jeremy, one for you, one for Paul. Just, we're out of here. Fuck this place.
I wonder if he realizes it. And there he is. Oh, there's Brian. I was hoping you were just like screaming at your screen. Didn't realize
I was like, I'm literally about to talk, and all of a sudden something went wrong. Like, well, what I was trying to say was, we took over Nashville for the better part of 4 days, and then we completely shit our pants on the field. This is what it looked like to me.
More bed shedding than a nursing home.
Absolutely. I think there were a lot of things that went into this, but the biggest one is that we didn't look like we prepared for a team that was going to come out there and try to punch us in the mouth, and a team that thought they belonged on the field with us, whether they did from a talent standpoint or not.
Yes.
And we weren't ready for that type of team.
Set the scene for him because you were there. You went to Nashville. You did all the fun things. You went wild. Watching your pictures and your stories and everything was awesome. I was just like, God, I wish I were fucking there. That would be so cool. And now I'm kind of relieved I didn't go. But please set this scene about the fucking that vibe you were feeling going in there.
All right, so this is my wife's first time to going to Nashville, so we kind of made a long weekend of it. We went down there. We got together with some folks that watch the show. We got together with some friends on Thursday, hung out. Vibes were immaculate. Went down to Printer's Alley, went to Lower Broadway. Great time. Had a blast. Did some sightseeing on Friday. Went to the Suns event. Suns absolutely crushed it there at Tin Roof. Really great event. Got to meet a bunch of people in the podcast world, hang out with a bunch of fans. And it was an absolute takeover of Lower Broadway for the better part of that evening. And then the next morning, really great tailgate put on by the Nashville Hokies there at the Holiday Inn right behind the stadium. Again, Hokies everywhere, absolute takeover, immaculate vibes, people feeling really good about what's going to happen. And then we get into the stadium, and that alone was kind of a clusterfuck because that stadium is under construction and there's like weird points of entry, and it's an awkward place to be. Probably the worst stadium experience from a college standpoint that I can remember. And I've been to Duke a bunch of times. It's like a slightly larger Duke stadium, but like with all the like shitty parts of going to FedEx. It's
God.
It's so bad. But so we get in there, and then after all these great vibes, there's a 3.5 hour stomach ache of watching that game unfold before us. So it was like one of those things where you have all the good feelings that you can imagine about being a Hokie fan, and then all of those same bad feelings happen in the span of 4 to 5 hours. It was frustrating to watch. It was frustrating because of, I think, just the ability and the talent that's on this roster, and to see them kind of go out there and fall on their faces as a staff and as a team was just very disappointing.
Yeah. When was it that the crowd kind of started turning? Because I know like that opening series, I know like us who, talk amongst each other, we were all just like, okay, this doesn't feel good. But I mean, the general vibe was, we're just going to bounce back. It's not that big of a deal, opening jitters, whatever. When was the crowd starting to get worried?
I think the crowd got worried after the tipped interception on the screen. And then when they punched it in, and that was like, oh, all right, so we're doing this.
Yeah.
Win or lose at this point, this is going to be one of those games where it's not going to be a fun 3 hours. We kind of knew that at that point. And at that point, it was just going to be, how bad is it going to be before we finally wake up?
Yeah. And it's like, that's the thing is, sometimes I'm like, I want to watch a good football game. I don't want to watch a good football game when we play. I have much more fun when we're beating the living shit out of people. And it's just like, whenever things get that tight, especially with a team where we're like, we should be killing them. I mean, that really throws everything off. And it looked like it was mostly Hokies there. And I mean, that's what it looked like on TV. That's what most people said. Like, it felt like that should have been like a home environment.
It was anywhere between 65 and 70% Hokies. Like almost the entire side of our stadium were wearing orange and maroon. There was a small section down to the left, pretty heavy student section. They were talking a lot of trash. They ended up having to get some stadium police over there to kind of calm them down a little bit because they were the only section there that were pro Vandy, and they were making themselves known pretty well, mainly doing stupid shit like just like not leaving the stairs to get to and from your seat. So like it was just like goofy shit and like just running their mouth. So they finally took care of that, and I mean it is what it is. But like I mean it was loud from a Hokie perspective. Like any time they had the ball at the beginning of the game, it was very loud, and then we ended up just letting them matriculate the ball down the field 3 times, and that kind of shut us up pretty quick.
Yeah, that seems to be how that happens. I watching from home, I was full on. I planned on not actually drinking during that game. I'm trying not to drink as much since I have to drink all the time on these podcasts. I'm just trying to like save my liver a little bit. And so I was like, you know what? I'll stay sober. And it became a fucking shit show. And everyone online was like, Jeremy, no, you have to drink for us. And a lot of times I feel like family members don't really understand sometimes the I guess you'd call it superstitious nature of it all, but I have to drink through games, not just because of my nerves, but because I connect it to somehow us winning. And I'm going to show you all exactly what I mean. Some family members, they just don't get it. And sometimes it's frustrating. And I kind of want everyone to understand that right now.
You know, you try to do better. You try to drink less. And then your team goes in down 2 scores to fucking Vanderbilt at fucking halftime. Now, what are you supposed to do? You don't get it. You never fucking get it.
She's terrible sometimes. I just talk to her. She never, ever responds back without like, hi, dada, or something cute. Like, sometimes I don't want cute.
Maybe what you need to do is just let her wear her Matt Ryan onesie and she can become a Boston College fan. At least then she won't be as disappointed.
Yeah, I'm sure. But Brian, like that's the thing. And before we get into like actual analysis on any of it, like you set like the pregame, you set the first half, kind of how it was feeling. What was it like going into halftime and then when we started coming back? Like, what was the general vibe? Because to me, like, how we feel as a fan base is very important this season. And if we're feeling pretty down, which I know we're all feeling down right now, I feel like it could go sideways real quick for a lot of people.
You know, I mean, I was kind of getting vibes going both ways. There were still a lot of people that are like, okay, well, we know we've got talent, and as long as we've got talent, we've got a chance. Like even when we're sleepwalking, even when we're struggling, we've got some talented guys out on the field. Let's go out there and put a few plays together, put a couple drives together, and see what happens. So the folks that I was sitting around, myself included, I was like, okay, let's not freak out yet, because we do have the talent in places that we need to. Let's put a few drives together. Let's get some stops on defense. Let's go score a few points, and let's try to scrape out of Nashville with a win. So that's kind of where everyone was at in the second half. You know, we finally take that lead. We're starting to feel a little bit good about ourselves. And then the defense that we saw most of the first half shows up again for the rest of the game. And, you know, we lose in overtime. So that's kind of where we are with that. And I think there's reason to be pessimistic and there's reason to be optimistic. And I think the reasons are kind of, you know, a little bit in a fight with each other, because I do think we have good talent in a lot of different places, but I do think that we still have holes in this team. And I'm hoping that teams, much like what Vanderbilt was able to do, don't exploit those weaknesses over and over and over again, where we're having to, you know, essentially lean on an offense to get into a shootout with these teams every week.
Yeah. But see, to me, Brian, the problem there is now, and I'm at this point with this regime, and I'm not normally this guy, but I'm here now. This seems to me to be a coordinator issue, right? Like if you're getting exploited for your weaknesses, like you as an OC, as a DC, you need to plan, you need to game plan for that. You need to make sure that weakness maybe isn't a strength, but isn't as much of a weakness. Like you need to try to cover that up. Now, if you do it with smoke and mirrors, that's fantastic. If you do it with personnel, that's fantastic. I don't care how you do it, but you need to do it. And this coordinator group, you know, I'm specifically talking about Marv and I'm specifically talking about Bowen. They don't seem to be able to do that. And I don't know what the deal is. And I hate to say this, but it seems like, you know, 3 years into this thing, we're rinsing and repeating every season. So maybe it's time to look elsewhere. I'm not a fire the coach guy, but I'm definitely like, I'm tired of having the same conversations every single season, you know, and I don't think I'm alone in this situation.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think those conversations are warranted. I think especially on the defensive side, because if we look at the groups that are struggling the most, it's the linebacker group overall. And they've struggled in run fits last year. They've struggled in run fits this year. You give them a little bit of the pass 2 years ago when there wasn't really a whole lot to write home about outside of Dax Hollifield. But, there's talent there now. We've got talent on the roster at that position. You've had 2 to 3 years to build on that talent, to develop that talent, but yet we're still having these false starts at the start of the season where we can't figure out from a scheme, whether it's position shuffles. We just don't get it figured out early enough in the season where we don't have these false starts and these fumbles out of the gate. And we look awful. Like, we shouldn't look awful for the first month of the year every year. Like, at some point, you got to come out the gate. You got to come out the gate soon.
Yeah.
See, my entire thing is it wasn't just like, oh, we could scheme around something. We were finding all new things that we didn't know were issues. Delane not actually like playing well. No one expected that. I thought he was probably hurt or sick or something at that point, because he just wasn't playing well. And so you're having this pop up on defense, and like, to me on offense, there's more of an excuse because we didn't get the ball a lot on offense to really try much more, even though it was obvious to me, you got to take the top off the defense. You got to start throwing some balls. Otherwise, they're just going to keep stacking the box. They'd stack the box. We couldn't do fucking shit over it. So to me, that was obvious. But also, if there's something that you think they're susceptible to, maybe you just need to try it a little more. But defense was out there all the time. And yeah, they may have been gassed, but we clearly were not doing something right. And I'll give it to them. They made the adjustments at halftime, and defense looked real good. And we just fell apart in the fourth.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I'm raising my hand. If you're gonna go 3-and-out the first 3 series, like, let's just go 3-and-out running the deep 9. Everybody just run the deep 9. Let's just chuck the ball up. If we're going to go 3-and-out anyway, like, fuck it. Like, let's at least, like you say, Jeremy, let's blow the top off of them. I mean, I'd rather see that. At least that's more exciting than running Bashal Tootin into the middle of a defense where they've got 17 guys waiting for him. Like, let's do something stupid if we're going to go 3-and-out the first 3 series.
Yeah,
I mean,
at least
basically said, hey, we're gonna play a 2 high. We're gonna stack the box, and we're gonna make you have to do something with the passing game down the field somewhere. You're gonna have to find holes either down the sideline or up the seam. We didn't do a good job with that early. We finally schemed some things in the second half that got guys deep in the secondary, and thankfully Kyron hit on a couple of those. But at some point, you got to be able to say, we've got to use all of the field. All 4 quarters. We can't we can't set up all these plays for a quarter and a half, 2 quarters while our defense is bleeding and we're down 17 points. At some point, you got to say, we need some points.
I have to say that 3rd and 15, running that little pass out in the flats was probably one of the most infuriating things I've seen. Like, I felt like I was watching Brad Cornelison call a ball game again. All the screens, all the bubble screens, it was nonsense. It was all horizontal. There was nothing vertical, and it was just frustrating. It's like, oh, let's get the ball into guys' hands and, let's make our playmakers make a play. Well, that don't matter when everyone's in the fucking box. Mm-hmm. What are they going to make a play in? What are they going to do? Juke 4 people? And Jeremy, everyone was in one area.
Yeah. And I love a screen just as much as anybody out there. I'm on record. I'm a screen guy, but you've got to be able to work it at all the levels of the defense if you want screens to be effective. You can't be running quick outs to your tight end and bubbles and then all of a sudden say, you know what, 3rd down, let's go with the running back screen. No one's going to see this shit coming. Right. Yeah, they are, because you haven't did anything down the field yet. No one's going to care about that. They're not getting their ears back on this because they're expecting something short, intermediate, and where they can, as long as they make a good tackle, they got you on 3rd and 4th down now.
Well, and there's 3 years of history there on film too. So like, you ain't fooling anybody with that shit either. Like, it's been going on now. It's been going on for 3 years.
And I've talked X's and O's with Tyler Bowen. Tyler Bowen is a very smart coordinator. I just don't know if sometimes he gets the feel of the game, and I don't know sometimes if he is ready to go into a game where he's taking the top off early. I feel like he does too much setting up of
Mm-hmm.
his bag of tricks early in a game instead of just coming out there and kind of playing his hand a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I understand setting people up. I understand. But whenever it's your first drive and you're stalling out, it's clear that like the game script, because normally those should be like your best drives because you've got it all scripted out and you're good to go. To me, that tells you that the game script's not all that great. And I know everyone wants to be an armchair coordinator and do all this shit, but it seemed obvious to me that they're stacking the fucking box.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot run this.
Yeah.
Why do we continue to do
The
this?
script didn't seem like it was set up to be a home run first drive. It played like I'm giving this drive is going to set up something 4 or 5 drives from now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think you can do that because again, it's become it always has been, it's becoming more predictable because again, there's all that film, Dave's right. There's been more than 3 years of it. I'm just talking about the 3 years under Brent Pry. I don't want to go back to the Cornelson era because that was god awful also. But, I just like, I don't know. Let's take some chances. Let's take some shots. Let's do something exciting because otherwise, what the fuck are we doing, man? Like seriously, like
we have
we've
to
got
take
all this
chances.
fucking
We have
talent
to take
outside.
shots. We've got all this talent outside. We've got all these great, and this leads up to everything all of us were saying beforehand. We have to give our offensive line a break because they're not going to be able to handle an entire stacked box. They're not that fucking good. They're just not there yet. They might get to where they're that good. They're just not there yet. And so we've got to try to help them out because we're not going to out-talent a lot of teams that we're up against if we're relying on the offensive line as it is right now. We're just not going to do it. We've got great skill position players. We do. And our offensive line may gel and actually like come together as a cohesive unit. And we might actually get that together. But until then, take some fucking shots and give them some help because whenever they got everyone and they're sending everyone because they're just expecting LT to check down or, lower his head and try to go up the middle, we're not going to be able to do much. They can't handle that. Our backs can't handle that. And we're going to get one of our skill position players hurt. Like, we got to actually be ready to take some shots early just to give ourselves options.
Open things up at least. At least make them think about the fact that,
Keep them honest.
Hey, maybe Ali Jennings is going to run a skinny deep post here on the 3rd play of the game, and we might actually have to cover him instead of them. No, this is just another draw play. We'll be all right. 9 in the box.
From now on, and I'd just go full fucking EA, NCAA, and I'd run 4 verticals. 4 verticals to start off every single game now.
Hang on.
If you don't, whatever. Keep them honest. Just fucking bomb it. Right.
How about this? Is this good? Hey, ladies.
Yes, that was beautiful, Paul.
Absolutely.
At least this time you're wearing shorts that are a little longer than last time.
Well, last time shorts were nice. I can go put those on again if you want.
No, you're good. Actually, I think those are the same shorts. You probably wore the same shorts all week, which is fine.
No, they're not. They're different.
I do the same thing all the time.
I have like 5 pairs of shorts that I rotate during the day while I'm at work, and then I have like 3 pairs of shorts that I rotate at night while I'm just lounging. These are actually work shorts. I haven't changed out of my work shorts yet.
That's beautiful, Paul. I mean, why would you? You just keep them on.
No, there's no reason to. Well, sometimes the work shorts aren't nearly as comfortable as the lounging shorts. I'm just saying.
Nah, never.
I mean, we can look. Here's the deal: we can bag on Virginia Tech football for an hour, or we can talk about my shorts and what's more comfortable. I think at this point, people are ready for the short conversation, Jeremy.
You know what? I think we might be there. I think we might be there.
I mean, I felt depressed, and actually, Chris Coleman, he summed it up pretty well. I didn't watch any college football after we lost. And whenever we're good, I watch college football constantly. But after we lost, I was just like, I'm done. Well, also, I passed out. But also,
Brian, raise your hand if you're shocked.
Everyone was online just like, Jeremy, you've got to chug a beer because we just scored. Because when I was drinking, we were doing good. And then I slowed down because, I'd die if I didn't. And then lo and behold, that 4th quarter happened. But, man, it's got to the point where it makes me depressed and frustrated sometimes whenever we do this kind of stuff. And I don't even want to see football. And Chris Coleman said, that exact same thing. And I don't know who said it, but you could hear his blood pressure rising throughout the TSL podcast as he talked about these things. And it's frustrating. It eats at you after a while. And no, I'm not at the point where I want to like call for heads like I was last season early. Paul, you remember that. I was on the pregame show and I was full on wanting heads to roll. And things shaped up and they turned around. And I think we're at this weird moment where we've seen this song and dance so many times before that we feel like this is just going to keep happening when it doesn't exactly have to. This could be a one-off game.
And I guess that's my rhetorical question to Brian is why is it that every year we have to wait to game 4 to figure shit out? Like nothing has changed. Like there are 22 starters, something like 19 of them are back. Nothing has changed. Why are we doing this again?
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, it definitely comes down to the scheme. And my thought at this point is, did maybe the staff give these guys too much new to think about heading into this game? Because when Pry was talking post game, he was like, yeah, we went a little vanilla on defense in the second half. That seemed to help things out a little bit. Were they given too much on their plates to be able to manage for week 1? Is that what we're going through where we're – it's like information overload, and then you're having to like kind of filter out what isn't working? Because to me also on offense, it looked like Kyron was seeing things that he wasn't used to either. So I'm wondering, we talked all offseason about, Kyron's got more reads. Kyron is doing this year. Did they give the players too much to think about too soon in this development process? Like, were we trying to kind of skip a step in that part of the process, and we got up there and got shell shocked and had to kind of, pull that curtain back a little bit and say, all right, let's get back to basics.
Vanderbilt should never shell shock us. If we're doing something to where Vanderbilt shell shocking us, we're doing something incredibly wrong. And I understand, like, you might come out and they might be, firing on all cylinders, and we're out there, we're trying to be like professional, thinking about it this way. Football, yes. You've got to have a clear head sometimes, and you got to think, and you've got to be smart. But it's also an emotional fucking game. Sometimes you just got to fucking pound some people.
Just react.
And that's what we have to remember. We've got to. That's why when you go through practice, you ingrain this kind of stuff, so you just react, so you don't have to think about it. If you think too much, and I'm gonna say what Dwayne Stanley, my defensive coordinator in high school, always told me, Jeremy, stop thinking. Because sometimes you just need to stop doing that and you need to do your fucking job and just get out there and pound some shit. Because we, athletically, with playmakers, everyone else, we should have been able to dominate them, and we weren't. It's like we went out there and we're like, okay, we're going to get this together. Ooh, let's do this play. It's like you're saying, maybe we put too much on their plate at once. Maybe they couldn't handle that. Maybe they were just thinking too much. When really we should have been like, go murder faces. And maybe they would have just murdered faces.
It would work better than what we saw.
Murdering faces would be a good alternative for sure.
Yeah. But I'm thinking, with every football team, you're going to click a little more as the season goes on. You're going to do a little better, especially on offense. Honestly, that second half made me feel a whole lot better about the offense than that first half did. Yeah, a lot of people like to blame play calling, everything else, but whenever we started opening up, it looked better. And if you recall, we went through this same song and dance last year where we were saying, open it up, let him do this, and that's where we really started clicking. I think we're going to be all right on offense. On defense, that didn't make me feel good, but I think they're going to come along, like they said, and I just wish we would make adjustments a little earlier. I know we're going to encounter things that we've not seen, but it's something that we're going to have to do because Vanderbilt is not going to be like this big definitive team on our schedule. I think they might surprise a few people in the SEC, but they're mostly going to get the shit kicked out of them the entire time. This is not going to end up being a good loss. We want to sit around and we want to be like, oh, Vandy's going to go on. They're going to surprise people. They're not. They're really not.
No.
They might surprise a few like bottom dwellers or mid-tier teams by showing up, but they're not going to surprise many people. And this is not the time for us to falter because FSU shit. Clemson is faltering. Clemson looks like death, and I called that well before this season.
Yep.
Now's the time for us to step up with NC State and some other teams that I think are going to take the next step. Miami looked good. I think Miami is going to get knocked back down to earth, but we can't slip up this season. This is one of our free get out of jail cards. This is one of the only ones we have this season. We can't go in a conference play and look like this. We have to finish it out. If we finish it out, we're going to be all right. If we don't, then that is actually going to be a problem for the program overall. This is a year we have to show out because it's like I said before, this is our proof of concept season, and if we don't show proof, no one's going to fucking believe anymore.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's definitely a pivotal year for this team. You've got talent that came back, a lot of them deciding to come back when they had opportunities to either go elsewhere or go to the NFL or just hang them up. You've got a veteran-laden team. You've got good talent in a lot of places, especially on offense. You got to take advantage of this window because there's going to be at least one of those retooling years before we'll have another roster that is anywhere close to approaching this talent level. So this is your time to strike. You can't keep having these mulligans in the season. Yeah. And the only thing I will say about that is that thankfully for a 12-team playoff and things like that, an out-of-conference game can be a mulligan now.
Mm-hmm.
But what you've done with this game is that you no longer have a shot, in my opinion, at any sort of at-large bid in this tournament.
Yeah. Jeremy, can you put Dave's question back up? Because I want to address that real quick. I do not agree with that statement here, but see, here's the problem. I also can't tell you who the top tier ACC teams are either. Maybe it's Miami. It's definitely not Florida State. Maybe it's Virginia Tech. I don't know about NC State. Shit, maybe it's Boston College. They trucked Florida State like that was Boston College, right? Yeah, Boston College.
Yeah.
That was a dominating performance by them. When we're talking about an actual dominant ACC program, right? Like I'm thinking Clemson, I'm thinking Miami of yesterday, Florida State, if they would ever show up, they're obviously not going to. So whatever, Virginia Tech back in the 90s, I don't believe that a mid-tier SEC team beats them. The problem, Dave, is I can't tell you who the top tier ACC teams are right now because I don't know. I also don't think that Vanderbilt is a mid-tier SEC team. I think they're a lower level SEC team, which concerns me even more about what we saw from Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and I also like to add, going the other way, I don't think that the low to mid-tier SEC teams are really that fucking good.
No,
their top tier is really good. That's it. That's propaganda. It's full-on propaganda that we hear every year, and we heard it through our own goddamn broadcast. We hear it all the time, and it just means more in the SEC. No, all of our teams top to bottom so much better. It's really not. They're not great top to bottom. They're very top heavy, and some of their mid teams are pretty good, but their lower tier they get beat up on pretty bad. The ACC right now we've got it rough right now because we don't have the fucking funding that these other. But also, that's not everything, as we've seen. Sometimes better funding doesn't quite mean it's going to translate to the field. Look at what FSU's been going on. What's been going on with them. Yep. Like you're seeing Boston College and Georgia Tech come out and just be a good coach team and like put it right in their fucking teeth. And it's beautiful. Like I like seeing that kind of stuff.
I'm a little bit mad about the Florida State thing because I had them as the fourth leg of a 4-leg parlay that would have paid me a decent chunk of money, and I just needed them to beat fucking Boston College. Not even good Boston College. Not even Matt Ryan Boston College. By the way, that era of Boston College, Jeremy, was some epic Boston College football. Doug Flutie, Matt Ryan, Boston College. Those were the eras for them. I know Jeremy loves when I bring up Matt Ryan, but anyway, I don't know, man. You can't compare the conferences because they're so different. Like, Big Ten and the SEC are very similar. Like, the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Penn States, that they're going to be good, but then you get down to the Michigan States, the Iowas, the Indianas, the Purdues, and they're absolute garbage for the most part. You can't compare them. You really can't.
No. And it's frustrating in some ways because it feels like our fans deserve better. and even ACC fans in general. I think we've got a good conference.
Yeah.
When it comes down to like fan bases, I think our fan base is great. I think NC State's fan base is great.
Yep.
And as much as I hate FSU and Clemson, I think they have good fan bases.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of deserve more going into it. It really makes me mad whenever people talk about whenever you go into expansion and realignment and everything else. It makes me mad when people bring up like UNC and UVA getting into like the bigger conferences when their fan bases just don't show up or they don't care, because the ACC does have some great fan bases. Some of our fan bases may be a little rougher. You know, you don't see a ton of Boston College fans, but the ones that are there are fun. The ones that came down and, you know, hammering a rail with me at Toss the other year, they're fun people. You know, some of these people are great, and there are good fans in these fan bases, and there are people that care. It's hard with the way college football is right now and how it's all going to shape up. But I do know one thing. Our fans deserve better, and we deserve better than what we saw. And whether we've got to make adjustments earlier or we've got to be more cognizant of issues that may arise, it honestly, I hate to say it because we're spending so much money on our coaching staff, it feels like they're all learning on the job most of the time.
Two things real quick, just to not to derail this, but I think we need to do that. Chris, here's the problem. ESPN suckles at the teat of the SEC. You're always going to get trash analysis unless you're an SEC program. There's nothing we can do about that. And we did a terrible job of introducing Brian because I have people texting me, asking me who this guy is that's on the podcast with us. Brian, I apologize. When Jeremy took over hosting duties and I just joined in, it turned to absolute shit. Brian, would you please introduce yourself to our people so that they know who you are real quick?
Sure thing, no problem. So I'm Brian Seigla. I am fifth or sixth of the Boundary Corner podcast at this point now. We are growing. We cover primarily Virginia Tech football, but we cover a little bit of everything Virginia Tech sports. You can catch me on Twitter. It should be there below on my name tag there. So catch me there. Catch our show at Boundary Corner on Twitter, on X, whatever we're calling it these days. Thanks, Elon. But yeah, that's us. We go live tomorrow night. So if you want to check us out, same platform, different night. So glad to be here, and thanks for the questions.
We're glad to have you. Thank you.
I'm new to like the hosting duties. Normally, I just do color commentary constantly. Yeah, it's weird to me whenever people don't know Brian because it's Brian, but he's also like one of my friends. And Boundary Corner, like your podcast, it has blown up so much in the last few years. You all have done such a good job with it. You know, you went from you and Curtis like chilling around and having fun, and it just like blew up. All of a sudden, you brought in Tally, and you brought in Shelton, you brought in everybody, and it's become this like snowball to where, you know, everyone's listening to Boundary Corner or watching Boundary Corner, and it's just a blast. And one of my favorite things that you all do is the get-together shows where everyone gets together from various podcasts, and we all just get on a panel and just bullshit the entire time. It's one of my favorite things to do. I look forward to it every year.
We usually have we preview the season. We got the preview panel, and then we usually have state of the program. That it started with just me, Curtis, and Jeremy. And if y'all can imagine that, there was a whole lot of Jameson. There was a whole lot of Evan Williams White Label. It was a really good time, but by about hour two, we were all in kind of full blackout mode. So it gets a little goofy in there, but it's a good time.
I would listen back and you could hear the moments that I would black out in like the first few years. And facing it.
And also, can I just say for a moment, Brian, as the music and PA guy for the Virginia Tech hockey team, dude, mad respect for the fact that you're wearing that VT hockey jersey today.
You got to thank my wife on that one. She actually found this at a Cracker Barrel. I forget what fucking Cracker Barrel, but she bought it at a Cracker Barrel. She gave it to me. She was like, "You're going to love this." I'm like, hell fucking yeah. And I'll tell you another thing that was weird because, Jeremy, you talked about it. Everybody knows Brian. It was weird in Nashville, like random strangers I'd never met saying, "Hey, Boundary Corner." I'm like, what? I'm in Nashville. I'm not in Blacks. I'm in Nashville. This is weird.
Yeah.
Surreal, but I was like, okay, I guess people are paying attention a little bit. So that's
It is interesting when you find out how many lives you touch when you do stuff like this for fun, for shits and giggles, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, it was kind of surreal. Having random strangers walk up and be like, "Yeah, we love it, man. We love it." I'm like, we're gonna keep plugging, man. We're gonna keep on doing it.
So all right, let me ask you guys this: we, as always with Virginia Tech football, it feels like we have to turn the page. At the beginning last week, Jeremy and I were talking, and I'm like, this could be a playoff team. I'm thinking 8-3 is the absolute floor. This could be not a 10-2 team. So, I mean, where are we as we turn the page from week 1? Where are we at with this team moving forward? Is this still potentially an 8-3 team? Was this the shit game that Virginia Tech always seems to find a way to have, even in 1999?
I mean, we've seen this type of game against an ECU to open the season. We've seen this type of game before. So I really don't know yet. I'm not necessarily recalibrating my high-level expectations for this team, but I feel like maybe the floor dropped a rung or two. If that makes sense.
That's fair.
I feel like we can still get to that 9-win level, maybe even 10. But I feel like where I thought maybe 8, possibly 7 was the floor, I'm thinking I'm leaning a little more towards 7 now on this team than I was before, where I was maybe a little more optimistic that, you know, maybe 8 was going to be kind of the low end of what we would do this year.
And here's the other thing: how many of us are now pissed that we don't have Florida State on the schedule this year?
Yeah. No, who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? Also, give Jordan Travis his flowers, please, because man, that dude covered up some flaws.
Oh yeah. Yes, he did.
I know they lost a lot, but fuck. Now, I still think that we've got a chance at a good season. It depends on how our guys and how our coaching staff kind of rebound from this. Hopefully, it's one of those things where they all needed a gut check, including the coaching staff, and it won't take them that many games to respond to it. But I'd rather it happen, you know, season opener, where weird things happen in season openers. It just happens. And we can kind of ride it off later as long as we respond and kind of come back and don't lose more head scratchers. If we can do that, then we can turn it around. Do I think we'll do that? No, I have no fucking confidence that we're going to do that. At this point, we're going to drop another head scratcher, and we're going to lose the games that we're supposed to lose, and we're going to end up losing at least 4 to 5 games this year, and we're going to be like, God, it sucks that we couldn't have done that. And I'm afraid that's just going to kind of roll into some more issues that come up the next few years. But that's just old Jeremy logic thinking, and no one gives a shit about that. What my heart is telling me is that we're going to use this as a lesson, and we're going to roll on, and we're going to go undefeated in conference play, which is all that matters in the college football playoff. Because we could do that, because guess what? The rest of the conference is not that good this year.
No, they're not.
Except maybe Miami, and we know that the wheels are going to fall off Miami at some point. So I think that we're going to go down to Miami, and they're still going to be good, and they're going to beat the shit out of us. And then you know what's going to happen? We're going to get the ACC championship game and play Miami again, and the wheels will have fallen off, and we're going to beat the shit out of them. And that's going to make me very happy, because that will remind me of the 2007 season.
Okay.
All right.
I hope you're right. Honestly, I hope you're right. Matt's right. You stick both hands in their back pocket last week, and they couldn't find their ass. So I don't know.
Joe Rogers is the idiot who didn't know who you are.
I wasn't going to out you, Joe. I was not going to out you. I was going to play it off, but now you outed yourself.
We love Joe.
For the record, Joe is mainly here for the banter. I don't know that Joe is here for the football. Okay, so let's take that for what it's worth. I mean, Joe's more here. Joe's going to the Super Bowl party to chat with people and eat food. He's not watching the Super Bowl. So
Joe's here to see what's the next crazy thing that's going to come out of Jeremy's mouth. Is that?
That's it. Joe's watching NASCAR for the crashes.
He wants the fucking soundbite. I love a good Jeremy soundbite though. So I mean,
that's true. Brian was actually the one that brought me the most into like the Hokie podcast, because Brian's like, no, you need to get Jeremy on. Like, he'd bring me into the panels and stuff, and he's like, trust me, get Jeremy on. And then I'd go on and I'd just like fucking rip into shit, and Brian would be like, I told you to bring Jeremy on.
I told you.
I don't do this much with my actual show, which is so funny, because I try to keep it like, because I've got to like do the operating so I don't get on my full tangents on my actual show.
Love it.
But yeah,
I love it.
I get brought on those panels and I just lay in.
That's why we do it, man. That's why we have
Yeah.
you.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Brian and Boundary Corner was the reason I, started this show, was because I have so much fun doing their stuff. That and, my industry podcast, I have that one, and we just have a good job. And it was us doing the state of the program, and me just getting blacked out drunk with you all and having a good time. And I was like, this is a lot of fun. And then Paul, the drive went away, and I was like, what if I just get really drunk on podcasts and bring Paul on, so we kind of have that vibe like we had on radio, except I don't have to watch my language. So it all kind of rolled together.
I'm surprised it's not called The Drive Unfiltered. Like,
Well, now that we made an executive decision that we weren't going to do anything similar to that. So, and it's a good thing we didn't, because now Nels is revitalizing the drive on ESPN Blacksburg.
Yeah.
4 to 6 Monday through Friday. Check him out. He's doing a great job out there. So very happy for him that he gets to do that. So turn the page, guys. We got a game this week, and this is a familiar foe for Hokie fans. What happens? What do we do here? What the fuck?
We need to play a whole lot better at the linebacker position. That's the thing that scares me the most going into this game, is just the leaky linebacker play.
Mm-hmm.
The bad
I had that board game.
responsibilities. Yeah. It's a good one. It's a classic.
Yeah.
It's right up there with Clue.
Leaky linebacker.
Leaky linebacker.
So, I mean, I'm very concerned about that position. I feel like they've shuffled guys around almost every week. We've got a new depth chart. We've got, the Jaden Keller starting experiment year 3 has gone about as expected, because he's already a backup at Mike instead of a starter at Will. That's probably the best place for him. I don't think he's a guy that can go out there and be your frontline linebacker. He's just so inconsistent with his technique, so inconsistent with being in the right spot. And when you're playing a team that I expect they practiced that they were going to come out and run the triple option, because I thought they would, but apparently the coaching staff didn't, because they did look like they were ready for the triple option. And they got a big heavy dose of it, and they were not prepared to leverage the quarterback. It was a really, really awful performance, and just let Pavia do whatever he wanted to do. And if we have a repeat performance of that against any of the teams we play in the next 3 weeks, but particularly the two we got up next, it's going to be a long game. I'm less concerned about Rutgers. They will run the football very well, but they do not have a quarterback that's going to give you that type of threat. But the next couple of weeks, we're going to see some of that action in the running game, and we've got to be prepared to funnel those guys to the spill area, make tackles, not lose outside leverage. There's a whole lot of things that we did poorly from a linebacker, from a safety field perspective, that we can't do consistently and hope to win football games, even against competition like Marshall, like ODU.
That was a good breakdown, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I put together a small breakdown.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah. I put together a small breakdown on what our first drive looked at like and why it didn't work. And I actually wanted your opinion on it, because, I mean, Brian was a offensive lineman in college. Offensive linemen are some of the smartest football IQ people you will ever
They have
meet.
their IQ on their jersey. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And they understand so much that's going on. And I actually put this breakdown together, and I really wanted your opinion on it. This was the a breakdown I had on the first few series there in the first half, and I want to see what you think.
Yep.
Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. If the dog go behind you, you can lose control. Whoops! Oh no! Oh, and it was a good run too. Well,
It's tough.
You know what? My head coach in college, Marty Favret, was an offensive genius, and I think he would really agree with your assessment there of what happened on those first few offensive series. As he would say, looked like a fucking clown show out there. Run it again.
It did.
Mm-hmm. I believe the term that I'm familiar with is monkey fucking a football.
Hey,
Yes.
I like
Yes.
that one.
Now,
Yes.
if we go through the rest of the out of conference and we smack shit around and we look pretty good, how are you all going to be feeling? Because we're always going to have this in the back of our mind.
Yeah. If we rough up Marshall and we rough up ODU the way we should, and we beat Rutgers. Look, Rutgers is a Big Ten team. Maybe they're a middling to bottom Big Ten team, but they're still a Big Ten team, right? So if we can rough up the other two, we beat Rutgers, by 14, 17 points. I think 21 might be a little bit too much to ask for, and kind of seem like we've righted the ship. Okay, then this is a blip on the radar. This was, Vandy kind of put together the perfect storm for Virginia Tech and caught them by surprise and was able to just kind of ride out the wave and okay, it is what it is. If we drop any of these three games, Medlem, Bayhem, riots in the street, salamanders will die, Center Street will burn to the ground, and then they'll probably end up storming the Merriman Center. That's my opinion.
It's going to get ugly, especially if you see another road loss at ODU.
Yeah, boy.
And I'm going to say this: I don't have really worries about that game, but it's still in the back of my mind that we're still seeing these road woes from a team that is now veteran laden, from a coaching staff that is now in year 3. We'll see if we can chalk that up to game 1 jitters, awkward road time, all this thing. You're playing at technically 11 a.m. So there's a lot of factors at play that made this trip a little bit different than your average, opening season road trip. But all that aside, I still am not liking the trend I'm seeing with these road games. And I'm going to need to see some consistency on the road before I fully buy into those jitters being gone.
Yeah, I agree with that, Brian.
As far as road game, if we're worried about a road game, I mean, that Vandy game was about as home of a road game you're going to get. My biggest things, I worry about Rutgers. I think it's going to be physical, and if we can't handle that one, I think that's going to be kind of my barometer here. Even if we win against Rutgers and we struggle against them, I think that's going to tell me a lot about this football team. Even though I think Rutgers is probably going to be a decent team this year, we should just have it as far as our skill positions. We should be out there and we should be knocking it out of the park. And if we have 2 out-of-conference losses going into conference play, I'm not going to feel very good about this team in conference play, because I know if we have lost to 2 of these teams, we're going to drop some to a few people in conference we shouldn't be dropping it to. And I think that's going to be it. I think that's going to be the season. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we just, don't take these games seriously and we go into conference play and it matters to everyone. And
I disagree with the don't take these games seriously. Every game has to be serious, right? Like there's no way that anybody on this Virginia Tech team was like, just Vanderbilt. Fuck it, we'll be all right. Like, they were woefully underprepared, Jeremy. And again, that goes back to the dudes with the headsets on, up in the press box, down on the sidelines. Like, Vanderbilt running the triple option should not have surprised you. That should have been something that you had prepared for. You had all spring, you had all of fall camp, and you had the last 2 weeks of real football to get ready for Vanderbilt. Like, there should be in that, unless Vanderbilt rolled out on that field in a run and shoot formation like the 1986 Detroit Lions, nothing should have surprised you. That's just unpreparedness by the dudes with headsets.
Well, with the triple option, they were out there running pretty much triple option top offense. The fact that we were able to adjust to it in the second half was pretty good, considering, like, if we didn't actually prepare for it, that's pretty damn good. We've always struggled against the triple option, and it could have got a whole lot worse. So on defense, I'm going to give them their props that they did make the adjustments at halftime and limit everything in the second half. That being said, the first half was abominable, and there were some things that popped up we didn't expect, like Delane having such a terrible game. And our linebackers, I mean, a lot of people called our linebackers having some issues, but that many issues, I don't know. It's hard to say with the defense how their offense was running. They've got a good quarterback. Like, he came out and he made passes that no one thought he was going to make, because all of the scout footage showed that in spring practice, he couldn't throw beyond 15 fucking yards without it being a fucking mess. So we were probably surprised with a few things. And I feel like we adjusted at halftime and we came out and did that. That being said, there's no excuses. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, we still haven't talked about the 0-0 fiasco.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm done. No one should have duplicate numbers on the fucking team any fucking more. If that's how shit's going to run, no, I don't give a shit what the players think. Oh, I want my number. Fuck your number. No, we're not doing this anymore. This is bullshit. We're not going to play this game. There's plenty of numbers to go around. You're going to pick a new number. You're attached to a number. I've had it since I was in elementary school. I don't fucking care. First thing I do, I take both of them. Neither of them have 0 anymore, because they couldn't even keep track of the other one with 0. We're done.
It only stings even more because one of the players wearing 0 wore 21 last year.
Yes. None of it makes sense. And then it's like, oh, well, I saw it and I let it go. And I understand he said, like, well, I saw it, but it was too late to call a timeout. I don't care. That would have been the difference in the fucking ball game. And we lost because of that.
Yeah.
Because of the penalty. Because
Matt brings up a great point. Brent Pry is 1-8 in one-score football games. That's not a stat that you want. That is not a stat that you want to see. That is some telltale shit right there.
Yep.
Tell Michelle I said hello, Tom.
It's interesting because, I mean, when we get a lead, we know how to keep it.
Yeah.
We do not do a good job in tight games. We have not found a way to win when it gets close. The only game that I could say where things got a little close and then we kind of put our arms linked at was kind of what happened against Pitt when they kind of closed the gap, and then we went out there. We had that long touchdown to Lane that kind of put the lead back out and put things away a little bit. Other than that, we've really kind of struggled in those close games where things get a little tight. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be something to follow, I think, this season, going forward, because I think we're going to be in for at least another handful of close games. I don't think we're going to run away from too many of those ACC opponents. I think it's going to be about like last year, where it's going to be about 4 or 5 games where we're, head and shoulders talent level above a couple of these guys. But for the most part, it's going to be, those other half of those games are going to be games that are going to come down to the wire, or games that the other team is favored.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was completely sure we were about to win that ball game. I thought, we're up here, we're doing well. It was when that penalty happened with the 0-0s and they got their field goal. That's when I went, shit's going to go sideways in the end. Everything's going to go sideways, and it's going to come down to us saying this. And it's like it manifested itself. Like, it feels like sometimes bad decisions manifest themselves, and I don't know why, but they do.
Sometimes it's self-fulfilling prophecy. You go out there and shoot yourself in the foot like that, it's going to come back to bite you.
Yeah. Just like that stupid tip ball or the interception that should have been and honestly, the replays, I didn't see where it wasn't an interception for us.
I couldn't tell from where I was because Vanderbilt, unless it was, I think I only saw like one or two like quality replays the entire fucking game on that board. So if you didn't see it when it happened live and get a clear look from your position in the stands, you weren't going to fucking see it again.
See, I was well deep at that point, and I watched the replays, and I was like, how is that not? I just assumed that we got the interception, and then it came back, and we didn't, and I was really confused. But going back and looking at it, I was not quite sure how we didn't get that. Honestly, I'm not sure how a few things played out, and including the fumble that went a few yards ahead. That was suddenly, I didn't know you could just throw the ball forward and it go out of bounds, and it's suddenly like you gain yardage. That was new to me. There were a lot of new things in
going
that game.
forward. If I'm wrapped up and I've got my arms free, I'm just slinging that fucker to the
I'll just
sideline.
sling it down. Whatever. Who knew? I didn't know.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Find that first down pole and just chuck that.
That's it. Even on the double number situation, most schools, the way they do it is if you do have a double number, because the lower numbers tend to be taken by a lot of positions. You got to remember, quarterbacks, running backs, defensive backs, all are going to wear traditionally that 0 to 39 number. A lot of times you'll have the double numbers, one guy on offense, one guy on defense, and they never cross the streams, right? Ghostbusters taught us that. You don't cross the streams. Also, they taught us that when you pee in the big urinal, the big wide urinal trough, you don't cross the streams. That's weird.
That you have to. If you don't challenge the guy next to you to a sword fight, you're just boring.
Well,
just a boring person.
For the record, if you stand next to me in a trough, Jeremy, I will not be challenging anyone to a sword fight. So, so the double number thing is easy to fix. You just don't give it to two guys on the same side of the ball. Like if you all want 0, right, and you're both playing defense, I guess let's bum fight for it in the parking lot. Like there's a nice area right behind the practice facility where it's kind of paved, but it's kind of enclosed. Like, go ahead and scrap. Winner gets number 0. Loser, you got to take 21 back or whatever it happens to be.
I'm sorry, Paul. I zoned out a little bit. What I'm picking up is that you are challenging people to a sword fight in an enclosed area.
Yes, absolutely. Like, let's just have some people would call it a cockfight. I'm down. I've been training. I've been doing some training.
Oh my, Paul, that was graphic, sir.
Graphic.
We are not graphic people on this program.
Are we not? When did that happen? I missed that memo.
No, but closing remarks, anyone? Paul?
Yes.
Brian, closing remarks.
I would like to let Brian go first as our guest.
I would like to see the Thundering Herd get fucking smashed this weekend, because anything less than that will take the last bit of my shaking confidence away from me for what this team can do this year.
If they beat Virginia Tech, if Marshall beats Virginia Tech, I may not be doing this podcast for the rest of the year. I'm just throwing that out there.
I hope we come out and I hope we shove a briar patch up their urethra. I hope we really come out and we do some degrading, terrible things.
The entire briar patch?
Entire briar patch.
Yikes.
I actually want it lined out like intestines that just stretch for an entire mile, and I want it all the way up. That's what I want.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
So is it going in and then coming out of their ass? Like what's the
No, it doesn't come out.
Okay.
It just kind of coils up like a hose inside somewhere.
Yes.
I don't know anatomy well enough to really feel like I can participate.
A gnarly bladder full of briar.
Pretty much.
Is that where that all connects? I don't even know.
It would go to the bladder, yes.
Oh, all right.
Just a bladder full of thorns. And
Wow.
that sounds like
I guess I should have taken. That does sound like a punk band name. We start a band
name. That's a very good band
Corpo
name.
Bladder Full of Thorns.
I like it.
And on that, guys, we're coming to the end of our drink. Brian, stick around for the after party to let our audio upload and do our normal things.
Hell yeah.
And everyone else, thank you all for joining us here at Blacksburg on the Rocks. We love all of you. Well, I love Brian, but the rest of you can go fuck off. But I do love you. And this has been Blacksburg on the Rocks. Cheers, Brian.
Cheersies. Clinkies. Clinkies.
Go Hokies.
Go Hokie.